Now, where local sports always come first, this is Action 4 Sports.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Joe's Top 10 here on Action 4. Here we are in Week 3, and yes, there are some changes on the list as we lost a few teams, gained a few new ones, and moved some others around. Let's get to it and see where we stand. One more look at last week's Top 10. Yes, it was Sherryland at the top for a second straight week, followed by Harlingen at number 2, Port Isabel at the 3 spot, Westica East was at number 4, Mission Veterans at 5, and McAllen Rowe made it in at 6. Number 7, I had the Donna Redskins. 8, 9, and 10 had in order Edinburgh North, McAllen Memorial, and Mercedes. Now, let's get to this week. I started out at the top 10 spot, and welcome to the mix, Edinburgh Vela at number 10. They beat up on pace Vikings in week 1, and I said that they were right on the verge of cracking this top 10 last week. This week they took on another team that I said was on the edge in Harlingen South, and they made this an easy choice between the two as to who moves on, and they hit the Hogs hard. 42-17 was the final. Welcome aboard, Edinburgh Vela at number 10. Another new team to the list this week is another team that is now sitting at 2-0, and that's the Rio Hondo Bobcats. I know I saw this team in the preseason and talked good stuff about them, but in 2 weeks, they're suddenly here in my poll at number 9. In a pair of games, the Bobcats have outscored their 2 opponents 76-13. They're making it look easy so far. This week, they're on the road at Progresso. On paper, that one looks like it could be another lopsided ball game. 2, so this week it's 9. Next week, it could be higher for the Rio Hondo Bobcats. Number 8 on the list, a team that has been here in the poll from the word go. This time around, though, Mission Veterans has slipped a few spots as I have them in at number 8. I still think they have plenty to make a solid run when it comes to postseason play, but I was hoping they could have scored a few more points against Odessa Permian on the road. I actually hoped they could win this game up there, but it was me being a fan. This week they take on La Jolla Juarez Lincoln. I think they'll climb on this poll before they fall anymore for a while. Mission Veterans Patriots in at number 8. Number 7, I have the Harlingen Cardinals. And yes, fans, I know this is another team that took a heavy lopsided loss this week, but on the bigger picture kind of thing, I still see this as a team to reckon with in the end. They'll be tested this week by a team that was in my first week poll, McAllen's Bulldogs. And yes, they seem to get healthy this week, but I think a lot of teams will get healthy against Edinburgh. But I think that the winner of this week's game will be a lock in next week's poll. This week, though, Harlingen Cardinals in at number 7. Number 6, the Edinburgh North, and yes, they move up a few spots into this spot and they are ever taking things to the limit the way they're winning these ball games. They're still 2-0. Last week it was a last-second field goal, and this week they take it a step further with an overtime field goal. But the bottom line is they win 2 games. I think this team has been tabbed to be much better by week 5 or 6 than what they were out of the gate. And now, if that happens, they'll be another solid team come postseason time. Edinburgh North in at 6. Number 5 makes the biggest jump this week, and that is the Mercedes Tigers. And to the fans that gave me grief over leaving them in last week after getting beaten badly by Cal Allen, I say don't take this team lightly. This week, they took on last week's number 8, McAllen Rowe, and they made it look real easy as they beat them handily. This week, they take on LaFerrier in a rivalry game, but if they have figured out what Cal Allen did to them, and I think they did, then they'll be okay on the road, and they'll move up the poll if someone else should falter this week. Mercedes, a solid number 5. At 4, McAllen Memorial, and let me go back to what I said about this team after they lost in week 1. If you give another reason as to why I think they are here and could be higher. Losing to Sherryland was one thing. Giving up points to Sherryland was another thing. Scoring points against Sherryland now seems even more impressive as the Rattlers went to Laredo and shut down a United team that's offense is borderline prolific. McAllen Memorial this week runs up 69 on Edinburgh Economies, and that very well could put up big numbers for some time to come this week. They take on San Benito. They gave up 400 yards on the ground this week to Westica East, who doesn't have Trevor Spades. McAllen Memorial does. They're in at number 4. Number 3 makes a move up for a 3rd week in a row on my list, and that is Westica East. The Wildcats, as I said, took down San Benito, ran up a ton of yards on the ground. And so, yes, I move Westica East up a spot, but I do so with some caution on those who are looking for them to move up even more. They gave up yards to Rivera. They gave up more yards to San Benito. This week, they're at La Jolla. Next week, they take on Edinburgh North. By that game, they can't afford to give up that much yardage on the ground. This week, though, Westica East in at number 3. Number 2 takes another step forward, and that is the Port Isabel Tarpons. I admit I didn't know for certain that they would be ready this early in the season, but I said all along that the way the brackets line up, if they get it together, and yes, I thought they would all along, then they would be in the position to make another postseason run. I like that they are winning games these first 2 weeks and doing it with nothing more than hard-nosed football, too. Anyone that is sent out on the field plays hard, they get it done. This week they get Hidalgo at home, and next week they'll take a test from Brownsville St. Joseph squad, who is also making similar moves and getting new players in the mix quick, learning on the fly. Right now I have the Port Isabel Tarpons at number 2, and I feel real good about that spot. If that post is stable, then how about the solid number 1? And I'm sure, again, it's Sherryland's Rattlers. There's no way you're going to get me to change my mind, at least right now, to the nth degree. They are right there. I said earlier, I was curious as to how good McCallum Memorial's offense was, and this week I was waiting to see how the Rattler defense did in Laredo. And my friends, holding a team out there to 13 is big. No, Sherryland didn't put up those big numbers on this scoreboard, but they won in a tough environment and a whole new dimension to this team right now. So for a third straight week, it's Sherryland at number 1. Now, fans, just like last week, I have some teams just outside of my top 10. In this case, I'm talking about Brownsville Veterans, Donna, Roma, and Westaco. I have a few others I'm watching, but these teams are certainly right there. How about this? I have a pair of teams that I want you to keep an eye on, even though they're 0-2. Brownsville Rivera and Ed Couch Elsa. For Rivera, they're 0-2, maybe very well 0-3 as they get Sherryland this week. But when they get to district play, I think they can right the ship and get in the playoffs. Once they do, you don't want to play them. Ask McAllen from last year. Ed Couch Elsa, also 0-2, but they'll be battle tested when it comes to district time and their schedule. They're capable of making a run late season. So here you go, my top 10 for week 3 in recap. And remember, the way I break this thing down is look at which teams I think have a chance to take their fans further along in a postseason ride. It's not necessarily about these teams winning or losing to each other in head-to-head games here today. Some may face each other later on, or at that time, well, we'll take a look at it from that perspective then. This week, though, here they are. So that does it for this week's edition of Joe's Top 10 here on Action 4 Sports. Here's hoping you fans have some fun with this, kind of keep track of things throughout the season. Let me know how I'm doing, and also be sure to check in with me. Of course, if you have your top 10, send it right here to me on social media. Contact me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and like me on Facebook, and message me. Like I said, I'll be sure to contact you back. Until then, till next week, I'm Joe Bowling for Action 4 Sports. Enjoy the games.